I have a duck hunting story or two, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how this goes that I'm going to share with you. And then maybe I'll morph it into a deer hunting story. Not quite sure. But when I moved to New Hampshire, I had never hunted before. I grew up in San Diego. I didn't know anybody who hunted. I knew, I think, one or two guys that liked NASCAR, and we were just a completely different breed. And then when I moved to New Hampshire for the, long story short, second time. First time was, a couple of years that I moved back home. And back here basically was just after Thanksgiving 1995. And started working and hanging out with a bunch of guys, and it's all NASCAR and hunting. And I was like, wow, this is a whole different world I live in up here, and swear words. Oh my gosh. And just being pissed off at each other. And I come to realize, like, the more angrier they were with each other, the more they liked each other. That was an adjustment. Anyhow, so a couple of guys kept telling me, bro, you should go hunt. You should hunt. You got to take the hunter safety education course first. So I took it, Londonderry, and I think Rick Olson was there. And anyhow, it was so interesting. So wow, I can't wait to get out into the woods. And excuse me. And I had a buddy kind of walk me around the backwoods of Bedford. He's like, yeah, they call us house hunters. I go, house hunters? What are you going to buy a house out here? He goes, no. There's so many houses built up that the habitat for the deer is squinched closer and closer. And when you shoot, you hear dogs barking in all the houses in the neighborhood. So they call us house hunters. It's shotgun only in most of the areas. We not rifle, put it that way. So I learned to track, to look for the scat, to look for the rubs, to try to find out where the deer runs are. And the more time I spent in the woods, the more I saw, to the point now where even when I'm driving around the highway, there'll be 5 people in the car, and off the distance, I'll be the only one that sees that deer off in the distance. Everybody else is like, huh? So, but it's hard to explain, but once you're a quote-unquote hunter, you see things that a lot of other people they're not just that observant in. So anyhow, the the deer hunting turned eventually into duck hunting. So I've hunted a few times in the Merrimack River down by, what's it called? Carthagena Island. Off 293, you go past the mall, and the river, Merrimack River, is on your right. You're headed towards Bedford. You look down, you see that little island that's got the American flag planted there. I'm the first person who put that flag there, by the way. That was one of the most watched episodes of my public access TV show, or at least most commented on. That was right after 9/11. I swam out there with a pole and stuck it in the ground, and then one day, after a few years, it fell down and got washed away. I'm not sure, so I went out, did another one, and then a few years later, it went down again. I said, oh man! And before I had a chance to replace it, I drove over the bridge, looked down, somebody else had put one up. So now it's just become a Manchester tradition where I don't know who's taking over now. I even swam out in the river one year and tried to plant it in the middle of the river, just south of that island, between the island and the bridge. And I had this super long pole. Dude, that's a rocky bottom. I could not get it. Oh, yeah. Anyhow, duck story. So that's, let's see if I can find some pictures. I used to hunt from that island. I kayaked around the island. I hunted from the kayak, fished out there. It's just nice to, like, you're out of the city, but you're in the city. And half of that island is, I think, Bedford. The other half is Manchester. So technically you can hunt the Bedford side. So when I used to duck hunt, I would bring these ducks home. The best one ever for me that I ate was a mallard. Oh, so good. But I know most guys, I think, just breast out the duck and eat the breast. But I felt that would be, in my personal opinion, just my conviction, that it was kind of a little bit disrespectful for the animal to just, kill it and then just eat a portion of it and then throw the rest away. Like, maybe if you had a cat, I don't know, you could feed it to. But I would blanch the duck in hot water and remove all the feathers. It's a lot of work. Then, you would gut it, obviously. And then with the right temperature, usually, fall, you can hang it outside for, I forget how many hours, maybe overnight. I would hang it, let it dry out a little bit, let the skin dry out. And I would do like Peking duck or something like that. And then one time I got something called a golden eye duck. And my buddy says, those are hard to get. It's a smaller duck. It's a small duck, actually. And my buddy says they fly down from Canada. Imagine being a duck. You're going to land in New Hampshire, to get away from the cold of Canada. That shows you how cold it is up in Canada. If that's how they migrate, I'm not sure. Anyhow. So I got a golden eye. I said, man, this is going to be a lot of work for just a little bit of meat. So I had this idea. So what if I take this little guy to a Chinese restaurant and I trade it for a poo-poo platter? Hold on. I said, that's a good idea. So I pulled up in front of this Chinese restaurant, which shall remain unnamed, but just recently reopened to a lot of fanfare. Apparently, a lot of people like CRS, Chinese Restaurant Syndrome, which is something that I get. Apparently, some people think that's a racist term, but when you go to Chinese restaurants, different ones, in between the Italian restaurant you go to and the Mexican restaurant you go to and whatever restaurant you go to. So how long does it take over the course of a year or two to hit 3 Chinese restaurants? Probably takes a while. And all 3 times you get the runs, it's the MSG. I mean, that stands for make some grunting noises, which is what you're going to be doing in the bathroom in about 20 minutes. And a lot of people suffer this. And it's because a lot of people think it's because of the MSG, which is really just fermented bacteria. But which happens, this MSG, which don't ask me the chemical name, is naturally in like mushrooms and tomatoes. But when these lab guys make it on their own, doing whatever, using whatever they use, starch, I don't know, and then they make it into a powder form, it's 100 times more than what is naturally found in a tomato. Maybe it's 10,000 times more. Like just say they measure it by, I don't know if it's a milligram. There would be 100 in a tomato, but in the MSG, it's 100,000. So imagine dumping 100,000 mushrooms made into a powder form onto your food. It's just unnatural for the body. And some countries have banned the import of MSG, and a lot of countries won't even allow people to put it in baby food. So that tells you something right there. Anyhow, I get there and I pull up right in front of this place and I park my car right in front with my kayak on top and mud dripping up the kayak down the windows, and I get out in my camouflage head to toe. That right now is where you would cue the spaghetti western music, and I walk in there, and they're like, what can I get for you? I say, hey, I just went hunting for duck. I shot a duck. You want a duck? I'll trade you duck. I'll trade you duck for some food. And she goes, you bring me duck. You bring me duck. Right? I said, we're in business. So I go out and I come in, and right away you see the viejos. Viejos. Well, I'm using Spanish for Chinese guys. The old timers in the back, right? The guys that are down there stirring their sauce with their cigarette in their mouth, and they're up to their elbow in the batter for the chicken, and they see that duck and they're like, oh, yeah, get the duck. And she goes, that's not a duck. Of course, you go to Chinatown, Boston, and they got duck hanging in the window. It's it's a good sized duck. I'm bringing in a golden eye, just looks like a decent sized bird to them. I go, oh, no, ma'am. This is a golden-eyed duck. This flew all the way from Canada. It's kind of hard to get. It's very rare. It's not super rare as a species, but rare for, a duck hunter to walk in with a golden-eye to a Chinese restaurant looking to trade for a poo-poo platter. She said, that too small for a poo-poo platter. I give you D2. I go, D2? Works for me. So I give her the duck. She runs it back, gives it to the guys that are like, they're not going to put it on the menu. Obviously, they're going to eat it. It's a win-win for everybody. And I get a big brown bag full of food. I open it up. I can't tell the difference between D2 and a poo-poo platter. It's all the same to me, So that, and I've done that more than once. I did that one time out in the Seacoast area. And that restaurant is no longer there. If I knew the name of it, I probably wouldn't even tell you the name anyhow. Yeah, I mean, this is the way we used to barter back in the old days, and none of these do-gooders would howl and whine and call the special number, the authorities, like they were running around doing during COVID, going business to business. Oh, you're not wearing a mask. I'm going to call the authorities. I'm going to call your corporate, Oh, my gosh. So I guess I can tell you a little bit of a deer hunting story. I got a big deer, a 9-pointer, 175-pounder. Bedford. Yeah, I might as well. We're going to go full circle. So I was tracking this deer, and I would go back to this spot. I did not have a deer stand. I had a blind. So I'm up on the top of a valley looking down. And I went all around there, and I knew this deer's pattern, where he ran, so one time I got fed up of being skunked, because sometimes a deer would go behind me and I'd turn around and they're going by, and I'm like, well, there's a kind of a rule of thumb as a hunter. If you can't see what's behind the deer, you don't shoot, because you don't know where your slug is going to go, whatnot. So I couldn't take a shot. So I ended up going down into this valley to the other side of where this deer used to run through. And I was setting up my blind, and I had my chair, and I hear something. I look, the deer's right there. Right, like 25 yards, 20 yards in front of me. I'm like, and it starts to run. And I had grabbed my shotgun. The same time, I'm yelling at the deer, you couldn't even wait for me to set up. Bam, bam. Can't remember if I took 2 or 3 shots. Must have been 3. But they bounce when they run. They don't just run like a horse, in the Kentucky Derby. They run and bounce and jump. I'm like, what is this? Like a rabbit, man. And he gets away, so I just packed up my stuff and I left right then. I'm like, I'm done. See you later. I went back the next day or the day after, I can't recall. Back onto the top, looking down. Sat there for a long time, nice and quiet. And then, boom, I saw him. Just never heard a sound. Never heard a sound. I looked down between some trees and bushes, and there he was, like a turtle on a fence post, just out of nowhere, just boop. Where'd he come from? So I'm like, if he walks forward another 10 yards and maybe another 20 yards, he'll be wide open. But he walked I forget exactly, like 10 yards, and he stopped right in between 2 trees. I can't remember how long I waited. I waited for him to move. I said, I can take it right now, but it's not a double lung shot. It's a difficult shot. So I waited. And I don't know if anybody has never hunted, but when you're in a situation like that, your heart is, oh my gosh, it's like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, he's gonna hear my heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, my whole body's, temperature's rising, and I'm just there waiting, just not even moving, just waiting. Like, don't. I remember now. I remember my dad was in Vietnam, a couple of tours of Vietnam, And he told me that being silent and patient is the most important thing when you're in the woods. And I remember my dad was talking to me. Don't move, stay quiet, wait. It was a long time. These amazing animal, so much respect for this animal. And which is why, like, if you see me posing with an animal, you don't see me going, hee, I don't smile, you know? To me, it's a form of disrespect towards the animal. Whatever. And so finally the deer moves. And I'm like, okay, just a little bit, just like if he would just stop right there, boom, stopped right in the clearing. Like, I think maybe that deer sensed me. Bam! I aimed. I was looking the whole time, and I adjust because I'm so high, aiming down. So I kind of tried to make that adjustment, and I fired that slug. And you don't know if you hit it until, like, if the deer runs away, you have to go down and look for the blood trail. So did I get it? Did I spook it? That deer took one step and dropped to the ground. Double lung. Got him. Not far from the heart. And so I said, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. Let it bleed out. I walked back to my car. I put all my stuff in my car. And 16 minutes. And I came back with my rope. And I went down, and I had remembered somebody told me that if you got a deer with a rack like what I got, you don't just walk up and see if it's still alive. Like, hey, buddy, you know, because you might get gored. And so I took a long stick and I tapped his eyeball. And nothing. So I never gutted a deer before. I never had lessons. I never watched on YouTube how to do it. I just remember I heard somebody say, don't puncture the bladder. The bladder, not the bladder. The intestine. It comes in like in a sack. The whole intestine's inside of a sack, and if you puncture it, I can't remember it. Anyhow, I started cutting the skin up the stomach. Right, I'm cutting, and then I'm pulling it back, and I'm pulling it back, and I'm pulling it back, and I'm trying to get in so I can pull the whole thing out. And I'm like, what the heck, man? And then finally I realized I didn't puncture that inner membrane. So I puncture that and I cut up, I pull it out, and I pull the whole thing out. There it is. All the innards, all that stuff. I pulled it all out, the hearts, the kidneys, the liver. Matter of fact, Mary, my African neighbor, was she African or? Yeah, her husband was Haitian. Got mad at me because I didn't bring home all that stuff for her. I'm like, you eat that? But now I realize it's very nutritious. But anyhow, so it's Thanksgiving Day. This is a while back. So the only place open at that time in this area for a weigh station for them to just make sure you got your tag and you register the deer was Merrimack Fire Station. So at that time I had like a small compact car. And I got ahead of myself. I had to drag it. I had to drag that up a hill. Dead weight. Now I know what dead weight means. Ever since that day, I said from now on, I hunt down the hill and I shoot halfway up a hill and I drag it down the hill to my car. Dragging that thing up that hill, oh my goodness, that was so hard. And at least I was smart enough to drag, not going against the grain of the hair of the deer. I've heard about people doing that. Got it into my trunk. That was not easy. That's a 175 pounder. Well, maybe not after I gutted it, but anyhow. Went to the Merrimack Fire Station, and I go inside, and I'm like, oh, I got a deer. And they come out, and they see my little car. Forget what it's called. Forget what car it was. It was a Pontiac. Was it the Pontiac Grand Am? Pontiac? Anyhow, they go, where's the deer? I go into my trunk. So I open the trunk, and there's this big deer. And the firefighters were like, what? How did you fit that in there? So rigor mortis hadn't set in yet. Oh, that reminds me. Oh, I gotta remind me when I'm bringing the deer to get it butchered. So that's a good story. Funny. So I get the deer out and I put it on this big scale and they're weighing it. And then right at that time, these two guys show up with this big giant truck. And they pull their truck bed down and they got this little tiny deer, right? And they're like looking at my deer going, bro, how'd you get that deer here? I go, in my trunk. I go, that's my first deer I ever got. They go, what? They go, listen, bro, if you're going to be a deer hunter, you got to get a truck. I go, I don't know. I got a little car and a big deer. You got a big truck and a little deer, so I think I'm doing all right. Right? So then the guy, this is a smart aleck guy. This classic New Englander. He goes, oh, somebody shot that deer before you. Look at his leg. Look, and there was where my slug had hit it the day before. I did hit that deer, but it had jumped. And I got his leg instead of, the torso. So what was I going to go? Okay, so now my buddy at work, he's a deer hunter. He knew a guy who was a butcher for Market Basket. So that's where I was supposed to get my deer butchered. And so I hang it at my house. There's like so many days you have to hang a deer for it to cure correctly so the meat won't taste gamey. I did all that stuff. And now it's time to drive it down to, I think it was down by Nashua, to the butcher. And this guy, when he butchered my meat, he packaged it up just like you would find it in the meat market. Everything was labeled, what kind of meat it was, what section of meat it was. I was like, well, this is unbelievable. I forget how much that was, $75? Anyhow, but now when I go to put the deer in my trunk, the deer was stiff and I couldn't squeeze it all together to get the lid shut, the trunk shut. So I know some of y'all are going to get mad at this part of the story, but think back in the old days, they used to put the deer on the hood of their car or on the, and drive around and drive it home. Basically, long story short, I couldn't get the head inside. I couldn't get the head in. And I had not cut the head off. So what I should have done was cut the head off. My wife wouldn't let me mount the head. Everybody said, you got to mount the head. You got to mount the head. You got to mount that head. And she's like, no, you ain't hanging no deer on my. I go, okay, it's fine, whatever. And I didn't realize how beautiful of a basket rack I had on that deer at that time. I remember one guy said, I've hunted my whole life looking for that deer. So anyhow, now I basically had to tie my trunk closed with my deer head sticking out with the antlers. And honestly, deep down, I'm like, that's cool, man. That's cool. I can't wait to look in the mirror and see the people's reaction. And so I'm on my way. And I think I was going down 101 through Bedford. I was going to go that way, so I don't even want to go on the highway. And I look over and this guy in the truck is just laughing, and it was my plumber. And he's a hunter. He's like, yeah, Greg, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. That was the funniest thing ever. And then I get my deer to the butcher and he goes, wow, that's a deer Bruce Gilmet would get. That's the same, because so like some guys are big game hunters, BGH, right? They see a small deer go by, they're like, nope, I'm only hunting the big rack, that's all they want. And so the guy says, you gonna keep this the head? I go, my wife won't let me hang it, take it to a taxidermy. He goes, I strongly recommend you at least keep the antlers. You cut it out. I said, okay, save it for me. And I did that. I got it hanging, just the antlers. So those are my two hunting stories. I have more. I'll tell you one. Okay, I'll tell you a quick one about an owl. An owl landed. I got a few more. I'm just gonna stick with this owl one. One time, by this time as the years go by, I had a tree climber, like a tree stand for a deer. The kind you just. So I'm way up high, and it's getting towards dusk. You got like a half an hour after sunset to hunt, and it's in that half an hour zone. The first like 10 minutes, that's when you start to get desperate, and now I'm blowing that little grunt, that little grunt noise to try to attract a deer, And I attracted an owl. And I'm just sitting there, and then out of the corner of my eye, I just see something moving. I look over, there's an owl like right next to me, like literally like 2 arms lengths, this big owl. Bro, they got talons. And I immediately was scared to death. I was scared to death of this owl. And I'm like, really? Well, actually, I was kind of whispering probably, really? You got it laying right next to me? Didn't even hear it coming. They are the quietest thing I've ever experienced. You can't hear a thing. And so now I'm looking for a deer. I have to look for a deer because my tick-tock, the windows of my hunting time is closing up. And I'm snapping my head back at the owl. And the owl, their heads are freaky when they move. You know that. So I'm looking. I'm like, get out of here. I'm looking. I know you're messing with me. I'm looking. Boom, he's gone. I just looked one time, he was gone. Did not hear a thing. I saw a branch. He was gone. I said, oh, you little stinker. Now I know you're messing with me. So now I'm hunting and I'm looking. Now I don't see that. I'm more scared now because I don't see this owl. And so I'm looking. The owl, you want me to put you in the mind of the owl real quick? The owl is out there watching me. Going, I'm going to buzz this guy. So he's looking at me and I'm like, and the owl's like, wait for it. Okay, wait for it. Now, boom, the owl took off right towards me. Just, no noise. And I look over and it just pulled my head back. Whoa, he went right by me, laughing. I know he was laughing. A little stinker. And then another time there was a bear. I'm not good at guesstimating how heavy a bear is, but it wasn't a full-grown adult bear, but it was sniffing around like and they're not quiet. There's a big deer coming, there's a big deer. I've said that about squirrels. And holy cow, it's a bear. And I always carry a handgun with me. I don't know if it was archery. It may have been archery. I think it was archery. That's why I had my handgun. And I'm like, if that bear climbs this tree, I do not want to shoot it. I do not want to shoot this poor guy. And it sniffed around the bottom of my tree, just walked around and then took off. It's like, oh, thank God. Because I would have tried to yell and scream to get it to climb down the tree to get away from me. But at the same time, I got a family at home I want to go home to. Yeah. Oh, man. But I used to tell my wife all the time, honey, no deer today. No deer today. It was worth every second. Every time you're in the woods and it's dark. You already know where you're going to go. You already have it all scouted out. You go there, you get up the tree. It's, you do all you got to do. Dead. And then all of a sudden the dead silence takes over and the sun hasn't come up yet. And oh my gosh, then you slowly see a sunrise coming. The sky starts to change color. And then the morning wind comes. And the feathers barely start the little morning breeze comes. Oh my gosh, birds start to wake up. Squirrels start to go. Turkeys start dropping out of trees. Like, where'd these turkeys come from? I don't have a tag for you. Get out of here. I'm telling you, I used to come home all the time and say, Mama, I saw some deer. I did see some deer. Where's I? Well, it was buck season and I couldn't shoot the doe or vice versa or too far away and I had archery or whatever the excuse was, or I didn't see anything, but I still saw nature. And I'm telling you right now, man, is oh my gosh. Yep, Toto, you're not in Kansas anymore. You're not in San Diego anymore. Yeah, beautiful. Love New Hampshire. Love the culture. Love the people. But y'all a little rough around the edges. Y'all a little rough. Remember my boss snapped at me one time. Tim Hannigan, I feel so bad about this. And I said, hey man, if you want to get through to me, that's not how you talk to me. Gotta remember, I'm from the West Coast, but hey man, what's up, brah? And I feel bad because he looked like I hurt his feelings, and somebody came up and they're like, Greg, don't you know that he talks to you like that because he likes you? Oh, sorry. I don't know. Oh. Anyhow, Love you, New Hampshire. Sorry, how long did I go here in the story? Let me see here. Clickety, clickety, click. 30 minutes. Oh, sorry about that. Thanks for watching. Hope you stayed to the end. Take care. Peace.